Imagine walking out of a dealership with a brand new car. You have the keys in your hand, and it finally feels like the car is yours. You drive it home, park it in your driveway, and feel proud of your new purchase. But there is something you may not be thinking about yet. Every single month, another bill arrives. Hundreds of dollars leave your bank account just to keep that car. After a while, you start asking yourself a strange question. Do I really own this car? Or does the bank still have a financial claim on it? And this is where the story of car ownership in America gets interesting. Let's say you want a car that costs $30,000. For most people, paying $30,000 in cash is a huge amount of money. So maybe you put down $5,000 up front. The remaining $25,000 is financed through a bank or a financial company. Now you have a brand new car sitting in your driveway, but you also have a brand new loan that has to be paid back. For example, your monthly payment might be around $500. That doesn't sound too terrible at first, but let's look at how long you have to keep paying. If the loan lasts 60 months, that's 5 full years of payments. That's 60 separate times money leaves your bank account. $500 might not feel enormous when you look at 1 month, but when you add every payment together, the number becomes much harder to ignore. And that's still not the whole story, because when you borrow money, you also have to pay interest. If you borrow $25,000, you don't simply give the bank $25,000 back. You also pay for the privilege of using the bank's money over several years. So a car advertised for $30,000 can ultimately cost you much more than $30,000. The sticker price isn't necessarily the final amount that leaves your pocket. But at a dealership, you may hear something much more attractive. It's only wall by May in a month, and suddenly, an expensive car feels much easier to afford. Think about the difference. $40,000 sounds enormous, but $650 a month feels much more manageable. That's the power of breaking a large price into small monthly payments. Instead of thinking about $40,000, you start thinking about whether you can handle $650 every month. You start asking, can I afford $650 a month? But the more important question should be, how much will this car actually cost me? Because the monthly payment is only one part of the cost. A car also comes with insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs, and other expenses. Each expense may seem manageable by itself, but when you put them all together, they can become a serious monthly burden. You need gas to keep the car moving, and every time you fill up the tank, more money disappears from your wallet. Then something eventually needs maintenance or repair. One unexpected repair bill can suddenly put a lot of pressure on your budget. Now add everything together: the car payment, insurance, gas, and maintenance. A car with a $650 monthly payment can actually cost you much more than $650. That's why you shouldn't look only at the monthly payment. The real cost of owning a car is much bigger than the number you send to the bank every month. But why do Americans accept these costs? Because for many people, a car isn't simply a luxury. In many parts of the United States, a car is essential for getting to work, taking children to school, and buying groceries. Without a car, everyday life can become extremely difficult. Imagine having to drive dozens of miles every day just to get to work. For many Americans living in suburban areas, that's simply part of everyday life. If your workplace is 30 miles away, driving may be the most practical option. And that's one reason people continue paying for cars even when they're expensive. One day, the car might take you to work, school, the supermarket, and even to visit family. The vehicle becomes part of almost every part of your daily routine. And public transportation isn't equally convenient everywhere in America. For some people, simply choosing not to own a car isn't a realistic option. After years of making payments, you finally see the end of the loan. You start thinking, soon, I won't have a car payment anymore. You feel relieved because the car is almost completely paid off. This should be the moment when hundreds of dollars suddenly become available in your budget. You can finally imagine having a $0 car payment. No more monthly checks going to the bank. But then you walk into a dealership and see a brand new car. It's newer, shinier, and suddenly your old car doesn't seem so exciting anymore. The new car has a bigger screen, better technology, and a much more modern design. And suddenly, upgrading doesn't sound like such a bad idea. There are better cameras, more safety features, larger screens, and smarter technology. The new car starts looking incredibly tempting. You look at your old car and start thinking that it's becoming outdated. Meanwhile, that shiny new car seems to be calling your name. Then the salesperson asks a simple question. Would you like to trade in your current car? You hand over the keys to your old car and prepare to drive away in something newer. It feels like you're simply upgrading. But there's one important detail. You're signing another loan agreement, which means another monthly payment is about to begin. Now, imagine your old car is worth $15,000, but you still owe the bank $18,000. That means you're already $3,000 underwater. In other words, the car is worth less than the amount you still owe. You don't have $3,000 of extra value in the car. You actually have a $3,000 financial gap. When you trade the car in, that negative equity may become part of the next deal. Now you're potentially carrying some of the old debt into your new car. So the new loan isn't always just paying for the new car. It can also contain debt left over from the previous vehicle. And that's how the cycle can continue. Buy, pay, trade, and borrow again. The car changes, but the monthly payment never seems to disappear. You drive away in a newer vehicle, but a trail of monthly bills follows behind you. Instead of ending the debt, you may have simply restarted it. And there's another problem. Cars generally lose value over time. While you're making payments, the vehicle itself may be becoming less valuable. A car that was worth $40,000 when it was new may be worth considerably less after several years, but your loan doesn't automatically disappear just because the car has lost value. You could owe the bank $20,000 while the car is worth only $17,000. You have a car in your driveway, but financially, you're $3,000 underwater. This is why car ownership can become financially complicated. The value of the car can fall while the debt remains. So, do Americans really own their cars? Eventually, yes, but only after the loan is completely paid off. Until then, the car can still be tied to a financial agreement with the lender. You may have the keys, but the debt is still there. You can drive the car every day and call it my car. But if you still owe money on it, you're not financially free from that purchase yet. And this psychology isn't limited to cars. Phones, furniture, electronics, and many other expensive products can also be divided into monthly payments. One small payment doesn't seem dangerous, but when you have several monthly payments at the same time, they can consume a huge part of your income. That's why the most important question isn't simply, can I afford the monthly payment? It's, how much will this purchase really cost me? You need to consider the loan, interest, insurance, gas, maintenance, and depreciation. Only then can you understand the true cost of owning the vehicle. Of course, financing a car isn't automatically a bad decision. Once the loan is fully paid, you can finally enjoy the car without that particular monthly debt. But before taking on another loan, it's worth asking yourself one simple question. Am I buying a car, or am I buying another 5 years of payments? So the next time you see a brand new $40,000 or $50,000 car driving down an American street, don't automatically assume the owner paid cash. They might be making hundreds or even thousands of dollars in payments every month. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories about money, business, and everyday life.